Welcome, guys, to the first ever Canadiens Cafe Podcast with your host, Nick, and our other host, Grant.
All right, already a host. I
All right.
like it.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. First podcast, you're a host. I'll cut this part out, but we'll have to
All
cut this
good.
part.
No, keep it fresh, keep it raw,
Yeah,
unedited.
yeah, yeah, unedited. For first time, yeah, true. We could do an unedited. Why not?
Yeah,
Keep it fresh.
let's look
So
at the sheet
let,
here.
let,
There we
let's
go.
let's start with the Habs start last night. We'll talk about recapping the game tonight, as well
Sure.
as updates on some prospects and maybe some possible changes that we would like to
Well,
see.
changes that we'd like to see because I know there's definitely been some changes with Kapanen going to the Finnish league now. That's been confirmed. That was today.
Yeah,
And then with Kondada going to be probably taking his spot in the fourth line there,
yeah,
as that broke earlier today. Yeah, so yeah, let's get right down into it.
yeah. So to start off, last night the Montreal Canadiens lost 3-2 in overtime against the Calgary Flames. What were your thoughts on that? And
Um, I felt that we did like the fact that it went into overtime, that was a well-deserved point that we got. I feel like that was a pretty even game considering that Calgary, they're kind of playing they're playing much better than they have last season altogether. They were a tough opponent, but you can't really say that when the Canadians finished bottom five last year compared to the rest of the league. I feel Calgary held their ground. Connor Zary freaking doing his thing over there. Uh, Good effort from Brendan Gallagher. Good effort from Yoel Armia. Heartbreaker that goal that we had there. I believe it was in the third period. Heartbreaker that it didn't really happen, but called offside clearly by the rule.
yeah,
Can't do much about that. The heartbreaker for me was that overtime. Okay, can we start with
yeah.
Dvorak if that's okay?
Yes,
Um,
let's start with that. So to go on, like, does St. Louis always throw Dvorak out on on the start of a three on three
is
or
he a
whenever
face
he
off?
needs a face off? He never it never ends well. It was
Is
same
that
thing
what
with
it is?
how
Like, is he a face
it's
off specialist that isn't a face off specialist? Like, I don't know. Is he trying to
yeah,
find him a
exactly.
job? I don't know.
That's what it was.
Uh,
It's the idea that he's a left-handed face-off guy. The only other guy is considered a center who's left-handed is Newhook. Him too, he's not doing very well in the faceoffs, but he's more of a winger in the first place, anyways. So
that and he's a utility guy. Like he has multiple uses. Dvorak is. I feel like they're trying to find him a job. I feel like they're trying to like just it's they're trying to jam him in somewhere that can work. And I mean, so far, I mean, even in the past, but like now, really, that like this team, it does look like it is coming together. Like we do have the bare
yeah,
bones skeletons. I feel like this is just an extra bone that like we're trying to find, or like an extra puzzle piece that like we have the pieces of the puzzle, but there's this one extra piece. Like where does it go? And I feel like I don't know. I don't want to hate on the guy either, but at the same time, it's the train's leaving the station, and Dvorak is
yeah.
at that station.
The good news is we're lucky that he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So after the season, we can just trade him. But like, is there? Well, I mean, we could just trade him at the deadline. But is there gonna even be a taker at this point? Before
I
the
mean, at
season,
this
I saw
point,
maybe I saw maybe he could be like a third line center on a a contender if they really need like some center depth, third or fourth line. But right now, it's just seemingly like he just seems like a liability every night on his lines. Everyone around him is just so much better,
yeah,
faster.
I've
Like,
been
yeah,
I've been looking at daily faceoff, and he's alternating between the third and fourth line. I mean, wasn't did he even maybe even might have been on the second line, but that might have been for injuries. But I just feel that that this situation isn't really like it's maybe it's that 1 year, maybe it's Martin St. Louis trying to be like, okay, this is your prove it contract year. Maybe, try to do something out there to earn your spot. But I feel like, but in my head as a fan, especially, I feel like my decision was already made about Dvorak. Is that you should just either let him go. If you find a trade for him, that's a bonus. But I feel like this is done, and we have the future pieces in place for centers positions. Um, I feel like our time is done. We already know the outcome, and it's just a matter of time. Uh, it sucks that what happened to Calgary happened, but I feel that at the very least, the Canadiens, the team as a whole, they did have a fight in them, and it's just unfortunate the way it ended.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunate how it ended. And now that we're all over Dvorak, let's now discuss like why it was so unfortunate. Look, Suzuki went to try and after Dvorak looked like he won the draw. He
What was the
basically
three
went
on three? What was the 3-on-3 when it
3-on-3
happened? It was Dvorak, Suzuki, and who?
and Matheson. That's how they start.
Matheson.
I can understand not trying to put the pressure on Hudson. A lot of people say put Hudson out there, but Matheson wasn't the problem here. I think you just go Suzuki Caulfield right off the bat with Matheson. You lose the face-off, you lose the face-off, you defend. And what happened to Suzuki probably wouldn't have happened if he was at center because he lost when Dvorak won the draw. Suzuki tried to get the puck, but he was tied up
Yeah.
with the winger, lost his stick. His stick went flying. Then Coronado came up the ice, and Suzuki had to go and chase his stick, which then
Yeah.
caused him
So
to be
it was Coronado, Zeri, and who the 3-on-3. I'm trying to find the lineup here for that 3-on-3 that was on the ice. Maybe over here. No. Anyway,
why not?
yeah. Either way, I feel like I don't know. It could have ended either way in that overtime had we gotten that face off, had the stick not broken. But to just start off with Dvorak off the 3-on-3 right away, I feel like that was just a an unfortunate situation that happened, but it happened, and now we have to address it. So that's that situation there.
Yeah. Let's just check back to that from last night. I'm just gonna check really quickly.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, so like on Zari's goal, so it was it was an unassisted goal.
yeah, because it was
Who
a
was
break off the
yes.
stick, and that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Coronado that broke off Suzuki's stick. The defenseman on Calgary didn't even really matter. It was Coronado
No,
and Suzuki.
exactly.
They tied up and he just and Coronado just stole the puck from the win on the faceoff that Dvorak had because he tied up Suzuki. Suzuki
Yep.
honestly had a bit of a tough night. Like he didn't really stand out like he normally does, you
You
know.
give him a pass. I mean, okay,
You're
fine. The
allowed
Canadiens
nights
haven't
like
been
this,
playing.
and
Yeah, the Canadiens haven't been really playing to their par this season from that. But
especially Suzuki.
all in all, you take it with a grain of salt. Calgary is a good team, like I said, and this is just those things will happen in a season. You don't know whether he's battling something, whether it's just the line changes, and like the or not the line
Yeah,
changes, but like his
the
teammates that are constantly
the minutes
rotating.
you're. Yeah, but
The minutes.
but now he's got like a pretty consistent line mate in Caulfield, also in
Oh,
Doc now,
absolutely, absolutely,
and
absolutely. I agree with that.
that's a situation I'd like to touch on. How did you feel about Jake Evans being a second line center because Doc was up on the first line? Like Evans is great, but can he really be that offensive? Like, can he play well offensively with a guy like Slafkovsky who needs some offensive help to be able to drive his own line, it seems. He can't drive it on his
So
own.
no, but from what I saw versus Calgary, is he had a really good chance there in that. Was it the second period or third period where it was a
The
dumped
post.
puck? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Where it went off the back of the boards and there was a loose puck right in front. He blitzed to it, and that was a good opportunity there. That caught everyone off guard, even the Flames, and that was a good opportunity.
Are you talking about
Um,
Evans or
That was Evans. It was Evans that got the shot off, I
Okay,
believe.
you're talking about
That's
the
what I
Evans
saw.
shot. I'm also talking about Slafkovsky. I find that like he's not with like any finishers, and him being like a playmaker, I'm noticing that his scoring will go down, and some people might get worried about that. But honestly, I find that he's been playing well on that second line with New Hook, despite New Hook being, pretty like average at best. I'd say that maybe New Hook was probably the worst of the three last night. Evans was probably the best because Evans has been having a great season, and on the penalty kill, he is like born to play that. The
Oh
way
my
he
God, yes,
steals
and you saw
pucks,
that. You saw that. I was
but
not worried. I mean, okay, fine. Calgary has some lethal weapons on their power play, but I wasn't really that worried when I saw Evans out there. He knew it looked like
you can never.
he knows how to control that power, the penalty kill.
Yeah, and that's something that you never have to worry about with Evans is he'll always play strong defensively. And that's why, like, yes, he was on the second line last night, and that my only issue with that is that he's not that offensive player, but it seems like when it's a penalty kill, he can break out into his offense or like in a defensive role on a third or
Yeah,
fourth line.
the
And
game
that
comes
is
to
what's
him. I find. Yeah,
and it really is working out that well for him, as opposed to someone like Dvorak. See, if you wanted a face-off, why not go to Evans last night with Suzuki? I know it would look weird too, like, why was Evans there instead of Caulfield? We would have said, but maybe the situation is better, and the face-off cause it might be cleaner, or they lose the face-off. All I know is the whole situation. We just never know what would have happened in a different situation. So
that's
maybe we
it.
can't.
We can play this game, and we can do that with the why didn't this happen, or why didn't he put these guys out here? We can play that game. At the end of the day, that's just a question of like it's one of those situations that's like the game happened, and you can look back on it and reflect and learn from it. And I feel like it was just more or less to give Dvorak a chance to do something. And the unfortunate thing happened where the Flames scored with under 10 seconds, with literally just 10 seconds in on overtime. And
It was
that's what
7 seconds,
happened.
I think.
Seven. So yeah, it was in that 10-second range. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry. But that's what happened. And what happened. And you learn from it. And it was just me. But what I see is that it was St. Louis trying to give Dvorak the benefit of the doubt to the veteran to kind of give that opportunity to do something, and it just fell flat in his face. Because Calgary could do that very well with their veterans. I find that okay, last season was like a lot of their situations was a struggle. It's also a tough division too. Like you can say that with the Canadiens as well, but this is an East-West matchup.
Yeah.
You can somewhat experiment with stuff with an East-West matchup since we only play so many few times, but yeah, Evans in
Yeah.
overtime would have been interesting for sure if that happens.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like if you're looking for a guy that maybe merits like coming out for a face off, and St. Louis showed that he will reward certain guys and maybe punish them in the shootout earlier this season when they played
And the
against
back skate,
the yeah, well the bag skate too, but like that shootout against the Islanders, not putting Doc out, that was a message to him, like wake up, like
that's true. That's very true. And a
the
lot of people are like I said. I put a poll on Twitter or on X the other day there, and I think it's still going on for one more day. I said, where do Habs fans stand as far as this season, the regular season, on our performances? Because I believe now we are four. What are we? 4-7-1,
7-2.
4-7-2, 4-7-2.
Yeah.
So um, a lot of people are on the kind of not expecting much improvement from last season, but also it's a little kind of scary that we're falling back below 500 now.
Yeah,
Um,
I think a lot of fans were expecting maybe around the 500 mark, but that's also with
that's what I
Liney.
was
So,
expecting. Yeah, so that's why I kind of said regular season because the Line A situation happened in preseason, so we kind of have a glimpse of okay, we know that now our regular season is going to be our expectations are going to be changed a bit. The positive is that it does look like he'll be back by December, January, hopefully by
yeah, or
Christmas. That'll be a nice little situation there. But at least now we can give ourselves that mentality of okay, from now until the new year, what should we expect of this roster that we're icing.
Yeah, like right now, I don't think we've seen the best of a lot of players. Guys like Suzuki, as
A slow
mentioned
start
earlier,
ish.
I
It's a slow
think
start ish.
he had some good games, and then like the last two he's been not on. But Suzuki's often like that. It's where he's that type of player that might have like a great game, but he may like two or three great games, and then he'll have like one or two like kind of stinkers, and that's okay to
The
have
Yoel
once.
Armia, the Yoel Armia special. I call that the Yoel Armia special because Armia is either you don't hear his name or you do. He's either Gretzky or he's either
He's
nobody.
He's actually good on the
And
penalty kill too, and I think we're gonna trade him at the deadline, and we'll get a decent maybe a mid round pick or like a B level prospect
I believe,
maybe
yeah. So I believe he's on that line with the on among the same comparable with Dvorak. I'm not sure how many years or year left he has on his contract.
they both only have one
Um,
year, but then you
making or
have
breaking
the
years, yeah.
it's not like the two other overpaid guys that well Armia didn't look overpaid last year, but he was over. We'll say bygones be bygones.
he's
Yeah, he's overpaid.
he's more of a liability than he is a help, and that's my
Yeah,
thing. If you're more of a
and
liability than a help, we don't need you anymore. Like it's not worth it to
we can.
be this guy. We have prospects. We're rebuilding. I know we're in our fifth year, but this
Yeah.
is the kind of year to say, are you good enough to crack this roster? Are you good enough to play competitive? Are you good enough to keep up with the young studs that
Okay.
we're going to have in this roster?
Speaking of young studs and good enough to make the roster, Oliver Kapanen was sent back down to Sweden today, and I thought he actually played one of his best games last night. It
He
may have
did.
caught me a little bit off guard, but you know what? I think a lot of it was that they just wanted to see like what he can do, and they
Get
always
him
had
North
this
American
plan
ice
of
time.
maybe
You know what I
sending
mean? I
him
feel like that's what it was. Yeah,
and
yeah.
send him back down to the SHL where he'll be able to develop his game more. He knows a bit more of what he needs to do to get to that next level.
All part of the plan.
And
I agree. Yeah,
I think because he almost had two assists last night. He had an assist on the Gallagher goal that counted, and the Gallagher
yeah,
goal that didn't count. He also would have gotten an assist there, and he
true.
played very well. Just he did such a great job
Yeah, no complaints.
complimenting guys like
Yeah, yeah,
Gallagher and Anderson last night, I felt, and
yeah. No complaints on my end from Oliver Kapanen. He's doing his thing, and it's another year, and this is what this team is here for. Get him that North American experience. Get him on this roster to show him what NHL level is. What's his age actually? Let's go
he's
see.
21 because he's born in 2003. He was part of the
Perfect,
2021 draft.
perfect.
Yeah. He's
Not worried
21.
about
No,
him.
no,
Yeah,
no, you
not
don't have
worried
to
about
worry
him at
about.
all. No,
And
no.
but I always think that there's gonna be a battle between him and Beck. I don't see the Habs being able
Healthy
to keep.
competition.
It's
Healthy
gonna be
competition.
interesting. I
It will
wonder
be. And
if I wonder if Beck gets a shot this year, just while Kapanen's gone. I mean, there's gonna be injuries, right? You
I
cannot.
mean, there will be. I'm not a fan of rushing guys, especially after the PTSD that we've had with Victor Mete and all those
Yeah,
other
yeah,
guys.
no, but in this,
Even I'm not sure if you rushed Paling, but even him, if you want to put him in there. Um, no, but
no,
there is healthy competition, and then there is kind of rushing your guys.
yeah,
I kind of feel like the Canadians especially have learned their lesson with that, and I feel like
yeah,
now we're actually doing the right thing, and now these young studs are developing properly, and I'm happy that we can say that.
yeah. And
Um,
one of our young studs is 20 years old. On defense, like you have Lane Hudson, you have Juraj Slafkovsky. That draft's gonna end up being
I'm
legendary
not
for the
worried about
Canadians if
the.
it
I
works
mean,
out.
we look at the way that fans or how NHL fans or hockey fans in general talked about Rasmus Dahlin, how he was struggling with the Sabres and that he couldn't really find his way, and then boom, all of a sudden he's doing great. Tage Thompson is waking up, and that team is waking up
But
around the
that
Sabres.
he was thing is he's our age and it took him a long time. But big guys like that, and that's the thing, Slavkovsky's gonna continue improving till like 25, 26. Imagine him
Well beyond,
in
yeah.
5 years. He could honestly be that power forward that everyone wants in Montreal, hitting everything, scoring 25, 30 goals a
I
year
am
while
not
getting
worried about
70 points.
Slafkovsky.
We don't need him to be that big point getter. We have Demidov for
It'd
that.
be nice. Well, yeah, exactly. It would be nice if he was. No complaints if he does become that guy. But we also have
But
Demidov coming in
but
hopefully next
yeah, no,
year.
but
And yeah,
that's the thing. Like you expect Slafkovsky to be closer to Brady Kachuk points wise than Matthew
yeah.
Kachuk. How about
He
let's look at it that way.
there's a bit of shit disturber in him, and you love
Yeah,
that. So
he's developing that. And
yeah,
he might have a bit of Ranton and a bit of Brady Kachuk in him. I think those are good comparisons. When I watched his game last year though, the guy, I don't know why he reminded me so much of him, but Marian Hossa, just the way he would play a good two-way
fellow
game.
Slovak.
Yeah, and I think if Slavkovsky heard that, he probably would love to hear that. Like
Hopefully, I
it
mean,
was
maybe he
one
grew
of
up
his
watching
biggest
those
idols
tapes,
growing
and
up. Yeah.
for
It was
sure,
one of his favorite players for sure growing up. I'm pretty sure of that.
if
And
he has the same career as him, then I really will be happy.
yeah, that would be amazing, but that would be hard to do.
Hard to do, but
What a
first
great
overall pick for a reason, right?
right. Yeah, no, and he's the first number one overall pick in Slovakia. I'm sure you've read a lot about what he deals with in Slovakia during the summer. Like
Well,
the
that year, I was like, this Lakovsky. I mean, we were all talking about Shane Wright, and trust me, I would have loved Shane Wright, and
no,
that
but
all
you
happened
were,
there.
I
But I
will
was
say,
big on Lakovsky. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. There was a time where I'm like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter that if we don't have the number one pick, Slavkovsky will be
yeah.
good.
We
And
weren't even expecting number one at that point. We were like, okay,
but
we're in the
it's
run for
funny.
top five.
But the minute that we got the first overall pick, I was all over Shane Wright. But before that, I was like, Slavkovsky would probably be a better fit overall. When you were looking at what Caulfield and Suzuki needed at the time, it looked like they needed a big, like, left winger. And
Yeah, because the NHL was leaning towards the big, skilled bully, and not bully like back in like the days where it was just the enforcer just doing all the dirty work and the stars were doing their thing. These guys are now being tough, big, and skilled. It's all three in one player. And
and
you look at Sokowski and you hope that that's one day what he can be
shoot,
for us. He can be one of those Kachucks, like you said. He
he's
can be
not.
one of those Marchands. He can be one of those guys.
Yeah, no. And thing is, it will allow Caulfield more space to just shoot the puck. And
My
that's
God, this
what
season.
yeah,
Let's
he's
go this
looking great.
season. I
Goal.
mean, he woke
Like
up. I mean, rest in peace, Johnny Goodrow, man. But that magic dust right there is really helping him.
it's like we
And
said, there's something in the air, and there. Well, now Kucherov and it's Nylander that also tied for first with them, but it was Reinhart, Heischer, and Caulfield the first to have 10 goals like three,
right,
4 days ago. And
yeah.
they all wore number 13. It was like some magic
So put
happened
that
with
in
the number.
perspective. You said Kucherov. Who else?
Oh, Kucherov and Nylander, but it was before it was Heischer, Reinhardt, and Caulfield all having 10 goals. But after last night's games, Kucherov and Nylander tied them.
So you have
Actually,
Toronto, who is doing. What's their record like right now?
they're doing pretty like they're doing decent. They started off a little slow, but they're 7-5-2. I mean, it's nothing bad. It's nothing.
Yeah, but you're talking about the Canadians who are eighth, and then you're talking about Toronto who's second, and Tampa Bay who's third, and Caulfield is in that mix with teams that are there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, he's got
it's
yeah, like Caulfield this season has been on another level, and I think it's something we can kind of look forward to. Like, I truly think this kid is a 40 goal scorer easily any year,
that,
as
and
long as
when
he
we
stays healthy.
exactly, and when the
He might
Canadians
not
drafted
get
him, this
50 every season, and he might not even get 50 this year. We don't
goal
know.
scoring is going
But
up. You never know, but yeah, no, the way we talked about him when he was drafted in 2019 was he's the goal scorer, and now here we are in 2024, 2025, and here he is scoring the goals for the team. And this is what I wanted him to be, and this is what he's becoming. And good, prove it wrong. Prove to me that you can do this. Prove to me that you're a goal scorer. Prove to me that you can find your way to get that puck in the net. By all means,
And
I have no problem.
and there was a lot of pressure on him to start the season with Line
By
being
me.
out. The
Oh,
minute
that
like
too.
you didn't have Line, well, and also Line in general was giving a lot of pressure to him. Like if Line plays,
Redemption.
he might lose his role as the main sniper. But right now, I think Caulfield is showing
It's
why
up for
he
the
should be
grab.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And speaking of which, do not let Line and Caulfield on the same line. Just let them each have like their own line
Yeah,
to be the
I'm not worried
sniper.
about that either in a sense because
And
really the goals are up for grabs. It's who not who
they've
wants it because they all want it, but who's gonna actually get it.
Caulfield has 10 of the Habs' 35 goals this year. It's it's like about 30%.
Love it. I love it.
It's
Keep them coming.
it's just under 30%. Like he's literally the only goal scorer. Well, him and Gallagher. Gallagher too. He's finding his old ways.
Love it.
Are
I don't know what's in his water bottle. I don't know what's in his water bottle, but keep on drinking it and keep on. Gallagher, a lot of people are starting to lose faith in him because of his age and the contract is starting to become a lot. But my God,
no,
he is the perfect locker room presence, and he will show you. Do not give up. Play with your heart on your sleeve,
yeah.
and just
And
all out on the ice.
right
And
now the
I think
Habs
even the
aren't.
bag skate even helped a lot too. I really think that bag skate when they laid eggs versus Seattle and when they laid eggs versus the Rangers, I really feel that was a wake up call that we needed.
Well, yeah, well, right after they looked good last night for the first time since beating Philadelphia. They had looked
Yeah,
horrible all of
yeah.
last week. So last night's game was a nice refresher, and it was very refreshing. But also, it being a Tuesday night and not being blown out of your building, that's a great start if you
Against
look
the
at it
backup
that.
goalie, you know how we are versus those. Yeah,
Yeah, we have a bad history. Jack Campbell, before he even became a starter in Toronto, comes to mind.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I know we've talked about that before.
yeah.
Just
Exactly.
out of nowhere, these goalies sometimes just come out and make a career for themselves.
Yeah.
The most famous, in my opinion, is the whole Michael Leighton in the playoffs against us in 2010, against where he kind of like he had 3 shutouts in 5 games in that series. You know that?
Yeah, yeah. The Canadians weren't that great on goal scoring either. So, but yeah,
Back then. Well, they had Camilleri, but
they did. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we did make
Camilleri
pretty
was
good calls.
really
Yeah,
that one year with Camilleri, right?
that was
He was
good.
a
That
really
was
good
good.
playoff performer,
He really was. Yeah,
but we have a better playoff performer points wise, I think, right now. And Nick
yeah.
Suzuki just needs to get back there because when he's there, there's nothing that stops
I'm
him.
not
There's a
worried.
reason why he broke out in the Stanley Cup Finals or
Oh
in the
yeah,
Stanley Cup playoffs in 2021. There's a reason why Cooper's like, this is your breakout party. And it really was.
yeah.
Every little bit of improvement since that Suzuki has done is not the different has sorry, it's not the level of breakout that he had between that season and the playoffs when
I
he
really
truly
feel like
be
that run, even though despite the Canadian division, despite like the whole thing where it wasn't really a true hockey experience, I love the fact that our guys got like a little taste to see what it was like to kind of show up to the big game and kind of be like, guys, this is what we're playing for. And that was like their first or second season, if
and
not their like
well
less than 82 games in the NHL.
well Suzuki was his second season. The
Suzuki
year
was the
before
second
was Cup.
season.
But and then
Yeah,
Caulfield, he had just walked out of college. He had just won the
literally. Yeah,
Hobie Baker. It
before.
was
Yeah,
those two. It was
exactly.
about those two. And
Yeah,
then the next season, Caulfield and Suzuki, they were handed the keys. You give it to them right there. Like, oh, it's time for guys to be the big dogs on this team because there were injuries to the main guys like Shea
yeah. And then
Weber and Carey
that following
Price.
season was brutal too. Yeah, so
Well, that's it.
we talk
But
about the injury bug. That season, the 22-23 season, really kicked our ass with that one.
the 21-22 season, yeah.
That's the one. Sorry. Yeah.
No, 2022-23 season, it started to show the promise that the team had. And it was
Yeah,
nice to
exactly.
see.
Yeah.
But yeah. And one thing that does scare me though is Reinbacher's situation. You know,
Not as much.
like
I don't want to say it
speaking of
now because we only have
injuries,
8 minutes, but not as much as Gooley.
no, right now, Reinbacher, the knee, it can be scary. Like, if he could come back, it's been 2 years in a row. He always has knee injuries. Gooley, if he can just stay, like, learn how to avoid checks along the boards, because he seems to get caught. And
Yeah.
that's the one issue with Gooley. And since he's come back from his concussion, he hasn't been the same defenseman he was at the beginning of the season. But he was something else
Oh,
before
I
he
love the
got
way he
hurt.
plays. It's just I want him to play more, and unfortunately
Yeah.
his body
And
just
the
isn't gonna
same
let him.
thing goes for Reinbacher. These two are supposed to
Yeah.
be the pillars of our defense. What do you do at next
Yeah.
year's draft? Do you go after a Logan Hensler? Do you go after a Matthew Schaefer, the two top defensemen in the draft? I mean, Hensler might be available at the Calgary pick if we see them finishing like 12th or 13th last in the league, which could be the case.
Right.
And Habs could be lucky to get a guy like that, and he would
Yeah.
slide in perfectly. But it'll be hard to see what happens with the defense now because the more we're watching the season, it seems like a season where they're testing a lot of defensemen, like who fits
Yeah.
and who doesn't. And
Yeah.
the more I'm watching, the more I'm seeing management doesn't trust Jacka anymore, which kind of sucks. You need that tough presence.
I
But
don't feel like they gave him the talk. I really don't.
oh, that talk there.
The talk of
So,
you don't have to drop the gloves every night, and it's good that you're willing to, and it's good that you're a great teammate, but at the same time we need you to play the games, we need you to put the points up because you can do that. It's not a matter of standing up for your guys, it's a matter of standing up for the game. It's you have the guys that can battle, you have the guys that can fight for you, and
yeah,
I know he
and
wants to be that person, but you got to pick what role you're going to be. You got to be that
and
either yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm starting to think that like guys like Doc and Slafkovsky, they can learn a little bit about fighting, and they'll be top six forwards going forward, which could be good. So if a situation arises and they have to defend someone, those guys could be an option. You don't want them getting hurt, but like it's good
Well,
to
I'm
have
not
that in
worried
the
about. I'm
back
not worried
pocket.
about like getting the hurt situation. It's more just getting kicked out of the game, or because like I told
Well,
you
yeah,
before
yeah,
in the
because you're
preseason,
jumping at
I
someone. Yeah,
said, yeah, you're jumping at someone.
and he's got
You're gonna
that.
get kicked out.
He's got that like history with him, so it's easier to go after him, like the whole situation with like Sealer and
The
all
other
that.
the other opponent knows what you do. The other opponent sees that you're gonna be willing to, and they're gonna take advantage of it. They're gonna go. All I have to do is piss off Arbor, and he's gonna jump me, and then he's getting kicked out. I just kicked off one of their
Yeah.
point getters.
Well, he's not a point getter. Calm down there.
Ah,
But
well,
like
Arbor, you can bury the puck in the net.
he can put the puck in the net, but that's not his main role. And he's getting less and less ice time as we go. And I'm looking and I'm
Oh yeah,
seeing that
it's his role.
he truly is the sixth defenseman on that team, no matter what.
Did
And
he let him? But did he let him become that? Because I feel like he could have been, like that second pairing defenseman, or that, like, or even if you are a third pairing defenseman, which he is, it's you got to finish the game. You got to play it out, and I feel like that the talk hasn't happened in the sense of like, you gotta strategize and not get where you can get players into your head because then you can use that. But you gotta, and maybe that's just an experience thing, you know?
yeah. What would you do for the lines? Would you actually put Slavkovsky back up and put Doc as a second line center going forward? Or would you,
Let me see how Daily Faceoff has it right now.
well, right now they have Slavkovsky with Evans and Newhook, obviously.
Right.
But my question is that do you think it's just better to just keep Slavkovsky up there? We know that at the end of the day, they want to push Doc to center somehow. But I think Doc has finally got the confidence to now lead his own line again, which I think was the original reason of why you push him away from the center role. But now, why not put him back there? He's playing well.
I have no
Doc,
problem with the rotation. No problem
I
with it.
we need it. Plus, they need a left-handed shot with Suzuki and Caulfield, and I think that's why Slafkovsky works. And some fans might say, "Oh, it wasn't working earlier in the season." Yeah, Suzuki and Slafkovsky, they started off a little slow, then Slafkovsky got hurt, and it kind of caused an issue. But just before he got hurt, it was starting to finally click. And I think that line needs to stay together and get it figured out. Just figure it out.
I think Sikorsky worked on that first line with
Yeah, and
Hockey.
doesn't matter. And some people might, oh, look at the analytics. Who cares right now? Right now, that line just needs to get all the reps they need to play
At the end of
together
the
because
day,
at
if
the end of
your
the day,
line works, yeah. At the end of the day, if
it
your line works,
for
it works.
40 plus
But
games.
you can always change them in game. Just because you set the lines doesn't mean they're set in stone.
Yeah,
And
and there
I
was
kind of agree with that. Yeah.
I think I would want to put Doc back to center just to see what he can do. New Hook can take some draws, but for
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
honestly though, or maybe you do keep Evans on that line for now because no one else is stepping up. You might as well until Line comes back, might as well give Evans some ice time on the but I
Yeah.
do think that you gotta just keep that first line together so they can continue getting those reps because they are the future. Doc and Newhook are a maybe right now because Doc's health and Newhook, he's pretty average, second, third line. You can find guys like that anywhere in the league. And that's where that goes on.
Yeah. I mean, he don't get me wrong. I think New has a spot in this lineup. I don't think that that there's any situation where he's going to be like a third or fourth liner. But I completely agree with Stokowski getting him the top line, unless maybe maybe there's something that St. Louis isn't really liking in his game, or there's something that there's not there, like that extra step or that extra edge. But if you're playing second line, that means that you're playing pretty good. So yeah, no, for sure, I would definitely put him with the top guys.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, Slafkovsky should be up there. And that's what they got to do right now. Just let it work and just let it marinate. It's gonna get
Yeah,
figured out.
yeah.
Sometimes people say like, "Oh, you should be making changes or less changes," but in this case, this is the one line where I say, "Don't touch it. It will figure itself out. It always
Uh,
does."
what
These
better
are
way
all,
to test it? Exactly. What better way to test it than versus New Jersey tomorrow? I feel like that's a
yeah.
perfect test.
But I think he's gonna keep the first line. Everyone played well, supposedly. I mean, I didn't think Suzuki played very well last night, but I mean,
No, but I
I
mean,
do think Slafkovsky also complements Suzuki better than Caulfield, but that's another story for another day. I mean,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, so
All right, so I
uh,
guess we ended off over here,
yeah,
and
yeah.
not bad for our
So
first episode.
yeah, it was good. Last episode of the Canadiens Cafe. Uh,
Yeah,
we look forward to making more for you guys.
let's do it.
All right, go Habs, go.
Take it easy. Until next game.
Yeah, take it easy. Bye.